Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about the Sun, Sextile, or Trine Chiron in a natal chart. Now, some of you may remember when I first started my YouTube astrology channel, I did a series on the aspects in a natal chart. They were a little bit concise, and some people may refer to them as snappy. So what I decided to do was make another series on them in which the videos would be a little bit longer and more descriptive. So anyway, first thing up, if you have the Sun, Sextile, or Trine Chiron in a natal chart, you may easily focus, which is the Sun, on helping and healing others. So let's say if you have your Chiron in Aquarius, helping and healing others, some ways of doing that may be just done very altruistically, through altruism, selflessness, humanitarianism. It could be through something environmental, doing things collectively, something connected, with a group, a club, or organization. It may be, it could also be through something with astrology or computers, electronics, one way or the other, as some examples. Now, another way that these aspects may manifest in a natal chart, it could be where one, readily shines, which is the Sun, in those abilities. If you have your Chiron in Pisces as an example, it could be, helping and healing others through, it could be through spirituality, meditation, relaxation. It could be something connected with drugs or alcohol in some cases, and you may be able to easily shine and really stand out to others in doing so, as an example. Now, also too, if you have the Sun, Sextile, or Trine Chiron in your natal chart, it can be about, resolving, issues with depleted self-esteem, which is Chiron. In doing so, really, having that right, drive and motivation, which is the Sun, in doing so. If you have your Chiron in Taurus, as an example, issues with depleted self-esteem or self-worth, maybe tied in, to a monetary situation or something with, possessions, material items. Uh, it could really intensify issues with self-worth because Taurus is the sign connected with self-worth. It could also be, matters with patience or just simply persistence, being able, it could be some difficulty in following through, on something, as some examples. Now, another way these aspects may manifest in a natal chart, it could be where the biological father, dominant males, and even children, which is the Sun, may be beneficial in matters that are associated with emotional wounds, which is Chiron. Let's say if you have Chiron in Aries in your natal chart, as an example, those emotional wounds may be tied in. It could be to some kind of battles, or it could even be physical, confrontation. It might be something connected with your identity, in the world, and being able, to fit in, basically, or issues with, assertiveness or aggression or being forceful, standing up, for yourself. Those things, could be where, those people, again, the biological father, dominant males and children, can be advantageous to. And another way these aspects may be expressed in the natal chart, it could be where one is able to, readily put that attention and focus, which is the Sun, on physical suffering, which is Chiron. Chiron is, as many of you may know, Chiron is associated with emotional and physical wounds and suffering. So if you have your Chiron in the zodiac sign Cancer, that physical related suffering, may be connected with the chest, the breast, the ribs, the stomach, as some examples. If Chiron is in Leo, there may be physical related suffering, tied in with the heart, the upper back, the spine, as some other examples. And there may be, it could also be where, these aspects, in your chart, if you have the sun sextile or trine Chiron in your chart, if you have one of those aspects, it could be auspicious for finding the key, which is Chiron, to deal, with anguish and suffering, which is Chiron. If you have, say, the Chiron, because you have the sun, it's about our focus, our attention, drive, motivation. So if you have that in sextile or trine to Chiron, it could make that easier in order to find, that key, again, which is Chiron, dealing with anguish and suffering. If your Chiron is in Capricorn, as an example, it may be understanding that, as far as if there's issues with social status and stature in life, as an example, it could be where, it just could be about understanding that it's not about, always how you are compared to other people. It's just being successful for what you're doing, being happy in what you attain, career-wise, and and being able to, feel like you're flourishing in whatever it is you're doing, regardless of how it's compared to other people. Now, another thing too is that another way these aspects can be expressed in the natal chart, it can be about, the ability to about expressing, the basic fundamental character, which is the sun, positively, and in spite of past emotional wounds and suffering, which is Chiron. And the thing about it is, if you have your sun, as an example, in Virgo, the basic fundamental character may be one, that's very punctual, reliable, punctilious with details, analytical, verbose, very precise, organized, as some examples. And the thing too is, another way this aspect may pan out in natal chart, or these aspects I should say, is that the healers, which is Chiron, may be compatible, or greater proclivity toward being compatible with your true self, which is the sun. If your sun is in Sagittarius, that true self may be very jocular, jovial, optimistic, philosophical, exuberant. Could be one that's very travel oriented, freedom oriented, and one, that could be, you could say, is very expansive. And so another way these aspects may pan out, it could be where, it could be easily, overcoming, insecurities, which is Chiron, and being able, in doing so, living your life, which is the sun, in the way in which it was intended to be lived. If you have, your sun, in Scorpio, for example, that life that you're, intending to live can be one which you have, the power and control over. It could be one in which you help transform and empower others, in their lives. It could be also a life in which you might have expressed a lot of incisiveness and being probity, being very probing, as well, and where you overcome a lot of, adversity, being resilient, as some examples. Now, also too, if you have the sun sextile or trine Chiron in your natal chart, there may be an ability to express, creativity, which is the sun. And despite, if you're dealing with adversity or trials and tribulations that you may endure, which can be connected with Chiron, if you have the sun in Aquarius, as an example, that creativity may be expressed through computers or electronics, or through astrology, as some examples. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.